Would you eat a steak cooked inside this? Most people would probably say, no way. And honestly, I understand why. For years, we've been told, don't heat plastic, don't microwave plastic, don't leave plastic in a hot car. So why in the world are chefs all over the world cooking expensive steaks inside plastic bags? Who's right? The people warning us about plastic, or the people telling us sous vide is one of the healthiest cooking methods available? When I started looking into this, I thought I'd find a simple answer. I didn't. Instead, I found something much more interesting. The science says yes, tiny amounts of chemicals can migrate from plastic inside food. But that's only the beginning of the story, because not all plastics are the same. Not all cooking methods are the same. And perhaps most importantly, finding something doesn't automatically mean it's dangerous. Today, we're going to investigate the science together. By the end of this video, you'll know which plastic I trust, which ones I wouldn't. Rather, silicone is actually better. Rather, mason jars deserve more attention. And what I would personally do after reviewing the evidence. Because around here, we don't chase fear, we chase understanding. Let's investigate. Here's the first thing that surprised me. Most people ask, does plastic leach chemicals into food? The answer is yes, it can. That isn't really debated anymore. Modern laboratories have equipment so sensitive they can detect chemicals measured in parts per billion and even parts per trillion. So simply detecting chemicals isn't the interesting question. The real questions are how much, which plastics, at what temperatures, for how long, and perhaps most importantly, are those amounts actually enough to affect human health? That's the investigation. I would never cook a steak in this. I'd absolutely cook a steak in this. They're both plastic. So what changed? Here's one of the biggest misconceptions. We talk about plastic as if it's one material. It isn't. Think about dogs. Two different dogs. Different breeds. All are dogs. But they're obviously very different. Plastic works exactly the same way. There are many different families of plastic. Some tolerate heat well. Some don't. Some are designed for food contact. Some aren't. And that's why saying plastic is plastic really misses the chemistry. Now here's where things get fascinating. Imagine every molecule inside that plastic bag. Even though you can't see them, they're constantly moving. Now, add heat. Those molecules move faster. Here's an analogy. Imagine children playing on a playground. When only a few children are running around, there isn't much bumping into one another. Now imagine recess. Lots of kids, lots of movement, more opportunities for someone to wander away. Heat does something similar. It increases molecular motion. Scientists call the movement of tiny amounts of compounds from plastic into food migration. Notice something important. Migration is chemistry, not conspiracy, not panic, just chemistry. Now here's something almost every study agreed on. Migration tends to increase under 4 conditions. I called them the 4 accelerators. Number 1, heat. Number 2, time. Number 3, fat. Number 4, acidity. If you remember those 4, you'll understand about 80% of the chemistry behind this entire discussion. Here's today's doctor's pearl. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. Modern scientific instruments are incredibly sensitive. They can detect unbelievably tiny amounts of chemicals, but detecting something isn't the same as proving it's harmful. That's one of the biggest misunderstandings in all of environmental health. Our job isn't simply to ask, can we detect it? Our job is to ask, is there enough to matter? That's where good science begins. Now comes the question everybody wants answered. What did the studies actually find? Let's start with some good news. Researchers have looked at food cooked in properly designed food-grade sous vide bags. And yes, they found migration. Tiny amounts of certain compounds moved from the plastic into the food. That shouldn't surprise us anymore. We already talked about why. Heat increases molecular movement. The real surprise was the amount. Most of the compounds researchers detected were measured in incredibly tiny quantities, sometimes parts per billion, sometimes even less. That's important because our instruments today are unbelievably sensitive. They can detect substances that would have been completely invisible just a couple of decades ago. And that leads to one of the biggest mistakes people make when reading headlines. Detection does not automatically mean danger. Think about these 3 glasses. One contains a single drop, one contains 10 drops, one contains 100 drops. Would you react the same way to all 3? Of course not. Concentration matters. That's exactly how toxicology works. Finding something is only the first step. The next question is how much? Then, how often? Then, for how many years? Then, does that amount actually change human health? Those are much harder questions. And honestly, science is still working on some of those answers. Now let's talk about the chemical everyone has heard about, BPA, bisphenol A. If you've ever walked through a store, you've probably seen products labeled BPA-free. That sounds reassuring. But here's what surprised me. Most quality sous vide bags aren't made from the kinds of plastics that created many of the original BPA concerns in the first place. Instead, they're commonly made from combinations of food-grade polyethylene, polypropylene, and nylon. That's an important distinction. But the story doesn't end there. Some manufacturers replace BPA with chemicals like BPS or BPF. Scientists are now studying those compounds as well. Some laboratory studies suggest they may also interact with hormone systems, but laboratory findings don't automatically translate into meaningful human health effects. This is an active area of research, and that's exactly why I think it's important to stay curious, rather than jumping to conclusions. I'll be honest, before I reviewed the literature, I thought silicone was going to be the clear winner. I figured I'd finish this video by telling everyone, forget plastic, just buy silicone. Problem solved. That's not what I found. Silicone has some real advantages. It's reusable. It tolerates higher temperatures. It doesn't contain BPA. Those are meaningful benefits. But silicone isn't completely inert either. Researchers have shown that under certain conditions, particularly much higher temperatures than typical sous vide cooking, silicone can also release small amounts of compounds called siloxanes. Now, before anyone throws away their silicone bags, remember something. Those studies generally involve temperatures much higher than normal sous vide cooking. So this isn't a reason to panic. It's simply a reminder that every material has trade-offs. Glass has trade-offs. Silicone has trade-offs. Plastic has trade-offs. Stainless steel has trade-offs. Perfection doesn't exist. Thoughtful choices do. Here's another doctor's pearl. One thing I've learned after years of practicing medicine is that people often want certainty. Safe, unsafe, good, bad. But biology rarely works that way. Medicine is usually about probabilities, trade-offs, and balancing risk against benefits. That's exactly how I think we should approach this topic. So, after spending hours reading the research, what would I actually do? First, I'd stop looking for a perfect answer, because there isn't one. Instead, I'd ask a different question. What is the best tool for this particular job? If I'm cooking egg bites, I love mason jars. They're incredibly stable. They don't contain plasticizers. They're easy to clean. They're reusable. And they work beautifully. If I'm making yogurt or custard or certain vegetables, again, glass makes a lot of sense. Now, what if I'm cooking a beautiful ribeye? Honestly, I'm probably not putting it in a mason jar. This is where a quality food-grade sous vide bag still makes a lot of practical sense. It's designed for the job. It gives excellent contact with the meat. And based on today's evidence, the amount of migration appears to be very small when it's used properly. If I wanted something reusable, I'd also consider a high-quality food-grade silicone bag, just recognizing that silicone isn't perfect either. And stainless steel, another excellent material, especially for certain applications, although not always the easiest choice for traditional sous vide cooking. So for me, this isn't about finding one perfect material. It's about choosing the right material for the right situation. Now I'd like to zoom out, because this may be the most important part of today's discussion. Imagine two people. The first person smokes cigarettes, lives on ultra-processed foods, rarely exercises, sleeps 5 hours at night, has obesity, has prediabetes, and struggles with high blood pressure. The second person eats mostly whole foods, exercises, sleeps well, has good metabolic health, and cooks an occasional steak in a properly designed food-grade sous vide bag. Which person worries me more? Not even close. The first one, every single night. Here's why. The scientific evidence linking poor metabolic health to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, kidney disease, and many cancers is overwhelming. The evidence linking properly used food-grade sous vide bags to human disease is far less certain. Now, that doesn't mean we ignore environmental exposures. I certainly don't. Whenever we can reasonably reduce unnecessary exposures, I think that's a good thing. But I also believe in prioritizing. Sometimes people step over mountains to avoid pebbles. Don't lose sight of the big picture. If you're trying to improve your health, focus first on the things that move the needle the most. Improve your nutrition, build muscle, sleep better, reduce chronic stress, spend time with people you love, become metabolically healthy. Then, once you've addressed those major drivers of disease, optimize the smaller things. That's how I think about medicine. Here's today's final doctor's pearl. Science doesn't ask us to live in fear. Science asks us to stay curious, to keep learning, to make better decisions as better evidence becomes available. That's exactly what we're doing today. So, after reviewing the science, would I still cook a steak using sous vide? Absolutely. I'd simply use a quality food-grade bag designed for a sous vide cooking. And I wouldn't use a cheap sandwich bag. I wouldn't use damaged bags. I wouldn't repeatedly reuse bags that were never intended for that purpose. And whenever glass or another stable material made practical sense, I'd happily use those too. Not because I'm afraid, because I like making thoughtful decisions. The biggest thing that entered this steak today was flavor. And hopefully, the biggest thing that entered your mind was perspective. Because health isn't about eliminating every possible risk. It's about understanding which risks matter most and making better decisions, one choice at a time. And if you found today's discussion helpful, I'd love to hear from you. Do you use sous vide? Would you consider trying mason jars or silicone for certain recipes? Or did today's discussion change the way you think about food contact materials altogether? Leave a comment below. I read them, I learn from them, and many of my future videos begin with your questions. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like this video, share it with someone who loves to cook, and subscribe, because my mission isn't simply to tell you what to eat. It's to help you understand why your choices matter, so you can protect your health, one informed decision at a time. I'll see you in the next video.